Beware of following the masses, my friends, because oftentimes the M is silent. We'll talk about that and more on this episode of Unleash the Awesome.
Welcome to Unleash the Awesome with Dave Gambrill. All of us have unique skills, talents, and abilities that aren't being used to their full potential. Our mission is to share the people, tools, apps, and other resources that will help you unleash your awesome on the world.
Yo, what's up? It's Dave. Welcome to another episode of Unleash the Awesome. Today, let's talk about how dead fish are the only things that go with the flow. I hear a lot of people who are confused about what they want to do in life, how they want to proceed. A lot of us got programming throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, college about go to school, get good grades, get a degree, get a job, work there forever, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of that model has fallen apart, but people have not upgraded their operating system, if you will, their belief system. So a lot of people are just operating off of that idea of like, let's just, the only plan is the plan that's basically been prescribed to us. Let's go to school, get good grades, get a degree, get a job, okay? But the reality is companies are not, people are not working in companies forever, and companies are not taking care of employees forever like they used to with pensions and retirement, lifetime, medical and dental and all that other jazz, right? That's for times gone by. Some people still might have access to some of those things. I actually still have access to a pension, but they stopped contributing to it. But I'll still get some payout, but not, it's nothing significant. It's not going to sustain me forever. And so a lot of that stuff is broken down. So if you haven't taken time to reassess and think of a new plan, then you're really, really in bad shape. And one of my favorite quotes is from Jim Rohn. And he says, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. Right? So it's imperative that you have some kind of plan, and hopefully some kind of plan outside of where you are right now. Like, what are the next steps? What are the future things? What do you want to do a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What do you want to have in your savings, in your investments? Do you want to buy your first house? Do you want to buy your second house? Do you want to buy a vacation house? Do you want to travel the world? Like, what is it that you want to do? And unfortunately, what a lot of people are doing is they're just following the masses. And unfortunately, a lot of times the M is silent in masses, right? So people are just wandering around following kind of what everybody else is doing. And it reminds me of like if you've ever been to an amusement park, especially like some of the Disney parks, like the Magic Kingdom or something like that. Inevitably, we'll go there, and being the person I am, I always have a plan of attack. I've looked at the map. I know what we're supposed to be doing this hour, whatever. Some people in my family would suggest it's not a very leisurely vacation, so I have eased off that a little bit. But I have a plan. I go in there, and here's what we're going to do, right? But you'll see a lot of people who walk in there, and they basically, pay their $100 and some odd to get in the gate, and then they get to the first thing out there on Main Street in the Magic Kingdom, and they just kind of look around, and they look overwhelmed and confused, and they're not sure what the next step is going to be. And so they just kind of wander around aimlessly. And I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want that to happen to you at the Magic Kingdom. I don't want that to happen to you in your life. So you have to think about a plan. Most people in their life are just playing checkers. They just are thinking about the next thing that's in front of them. Oh, it's morning time. I woke up. What am I going to have for breakfast? Right? What am I going to have for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner? Right? Just thinking about the next thing. I have found that ultra successful people are the ones that are playing chess. They're thinking 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 moves ahead, right? People who are very successful with fitness and eating right, eating well. Typically, they don't just think about what they're going to eat when the next meal comes up. They have a plan. Oftentimes, they have a meal plan that they follow. Sometimes they do meal prep on the weekends to make sure that they have food available to them throughout the week, so they don't make bad food choices. They plan ahead. People who are typically secure financially for their retirement are people that have planned ahead. They've made little investments over time, taking advantage of things like compound interest. Maybe they're paying attention to some of the new things that are available, cryptocurrencies and some other stuff, but they have a plan. They're executing on that plan. Half or a large percentage of their retirement might be in safer vehicles, maybe annuities, maybe just index funds in the market. Maybe they have some real estate throwing off some rental income or something like that. And maybe they have X percent in this super aggressive, risky stuff like crypto, but like they have a plan. Most people who are losing money in that place are just like, oh, there's this Dogecoin thing. What is that? I'm going to go put half my life savings in it. And then they get destroyed. Or they say like, I'm going to go buy this AMC stock. It doesn't make any sense fundamentally, but let me go buy it. I'm going to tell you, if you're an individual investor and you try to time some of those things, you're going to be in a really, really bad place. Sometimes you'll guess right, but it's almost like being in a casino. If you're playing roulette, sometimes that ball pops on your number, but oftentimes it doesn't, right? Like there's, I don't know, was there 36 numbers and then 2 zeros? So 38 numbers that ball can jump into on a roulette wheel, right? You can only bet straight up on one number. Well, I mean, you can make multiple bets, but most people will just put all their money kind of on one thing. And then there's 38 other opportunities for that to go wrong and for you to not get paid. So you got to have a plan. You got to do something better than gambling. You got to plan ahead. And there's all kinds of things that back this up, whether you want to look at it from the spiritual angle or the science angle or the energy angle, the law of attraction or the reticular activating system, or however you want to look at this. There's lots of data that suggests when you have a plan and you start attacking that plan, you start working on that mission, you start to see things in the world around you that you would not have otherwise seen if you weren't on the mission, if you weren't executing the plan, right? Plan your work your plan. So when you go on the plan, when you do this thing, you start to see things happening in the world that just would not have been opportunities for you otherwise. They might have been there. You might have experienced them, but because you weren't locked into what it is you're trying to do, they wouldn't have presented themselves in such a way that you're like, oh, okay, look at that thing, right? I've heard the definition of the word luck, right? Some people define it as when preparation meets opportunity. That's luck, right? But if you have a plan and you're prepared and you're executing on these things and an opportunity pops up, then one, you see it, and two, you're in a position to take advantage of it, to capitalize on it. But if you're just wandering around aimlessly and you don't know what you're doing, then you probably don't have the resources ready. You don't have the cash sitting on the sidelines to make the investment. You don't have the tools, the skill set that is required to capitalize on that thing. I'll give you one more example. If you think about, and I know this has happened to all of you, if you think about when you were buying your last car, whatever kind of car it was, whether it was new or used or whatever, you thought about that car. And as soon as you thought, okay, this is the kind of car I'm going to get. Okay, and in my case, I do have a Tesla Model 3, and I love it. And so when I started thinking about getting it, I started to see Teslas everywhere. Now, you probably all know that Tesla Model 3 is a very, very, very small percentage of the cars that are out on the road. And whatever it is you looked for, right? Maybe you looked at a Honda Accord, which is probably one of the most popular cars on the road. But even if that was something that you wanted, wasn't it amazing that after you decided, okay, I want a Honda Accord, everywhere you went, you saw them. They popped out at you. They might have popped out in the traffic or on the road on the other side going 75 miles an hour in the other direction. And you're like, oh, there it is. And I know what happens to me. I know I see the Model 3s. I see all the different Tesla models. They just jump out at me. And they could be going the opposite direction, 80 miles an hour. But I see them because I primed my conscious brain to think about it, to want to have one, to attract it, law of attraction, if you will. And now, however you want to put it, these things just kind of magically appear, right? But it's not magic. It's because you're now, other than conscious or subconscious mind, is working on how to acquire that thing. And so it starts to see it anywhere you encounter one, even in a large crowd. The other thing is, if you think about your name, the sound of your name, right? So you know your name. You ever been in a big crowd of people or a party or something, and somebody says your name, and maybe they don't even yell it, right? They're just barely saying it. They're not even saying it above the volume of everything else that's going on. But if someone says your name, it gets your attention. I see the same thing with people in the grocery store, right? People be like, hey, mom, or dad. We're like, okay, there's lots of moms and dads. But sometimes I've seen kids call their parents by their name. Well, it sure does get their attention, whether the parents think that it's not something polite that a child should be doing, or it just happens to be that that's their name, and they hear it, and they turn around and look when somebody says it, right? So my encouragement to you would be is don't be like a dead fish and just go with the flow. Have a plan. No matter where you are right now, maybe you've arrived at that place. Maybe you went to school, got a degree, and you got a job. But now you're just doing the thing. You're just doing your job. Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan to either build a side hustle and eventually leave that job? Do you have a plan to get promoted at that job? Do you have a plan to get promoted and then get promoted again at that job? Do you have a plan to maybe build your skill set there and take it someplace else later? Like, start working on those things. If your company offers training and tuition reimbursement and all of those things, figure out what your grand plan is. It's not the plan that the company has laid out for you. That's ideally what they would want to have happen for you because it's best for them, right? Human resources and career planning and all that stuff, stop it. That is for the company. That's not for you. So think about what you want to do. Have a plan for you. You don't need to share it with everybody at your office, but have a plan. Do you want to be there for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Right? And maybe things will change and you won't be able to be there for 10 years anyway because the company goes out of business or they get bought out or whatever. So my encouragement to you would be like, have a strategy, be building up some transferable skills, if you will. If they'll pay for you to get other degrees and certification while you're there, then do it. Take advantage of it, but know what it is you're trying to do. Figure out where your strengths are and double down on those. Go get some extra certifications or training in those. If you have weaknesses that are going to create situations where it's going to be debilitating, right? Then go shore up those weaknesses. I wouldn't usually say to invest in taking care of your weaknesses, right? Because you can outsource them or whatever. Like, people will pay, the marketplace pays for strengths, right? They don't pay for mediocrity, and they don't pay for people that are mitigating their weaknesses. They pay for people who are really good at something. So if you're good at something, invest some time, effort, and energy getting better at it, unless that weakness is really just going to cause you to not even be in the game, right? But have a plan. Focus on those things. Do those things. You want to build your side hustle. Are you building your audience? Are you building your email list? Have you built a low ticket offer? Do you have a value ladder that you're going to move people to? These are all things I talk about over my digital marketing mentorship group, by the way, on Facebook. I also have a Telegram channel where I share some of the stuff there as well. I'll put those links in the show notes for you. But have a plan and build it the way you want, right? My friend James Wedmore has a course. He calls it Business by Design, because he shows you how to build your own business. Basically, it's an information business, digital product business, online business. He shows you how to build it in a way that is designed for you, the way you want it. You don't have to build it the way I did it. You don't have to build it the way James does it. You don't have to build it the way anybody else does it. Build it the way you want it. But he calls it Business by Design because he wants you to design it the way that you want to be successful. Tim Ferriss, in his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, which I talk about, it seems like every episode of this podcast, created something called lifestyle design. The general concept was around, but he basically came up with that word and made it super popular, right? Lifestyle design, that term. And he basically has said the same thing. Like, you don't have to work the corporate 9 to 5 for 40 years and hope that a company takes care of you. There are other things that you can do. And if you design your lifestyle and then follow it, chances are you're going to have success. Now, maybe you won't have all the success you want. Maybe you won't have 5 vacation properties all over the world. But what if you fell short and you had 3? What if you fell short and you just had 1 vacation property? So you have your own home, but then you have a vacation property somewhere you want. For a lot of people, that would be a lot better than their current scenario. Right? But a lot of people are just sitting around in their cubicle, living lives of quiet desperation because they don't have a plan. Please, as a listener to this podcast, have a plan. You cannot unleash your awesome if you don't have a plan. You're not just going to wander your way aimlessly to unleashing your awesome. You have to have a plan of attack. You have to work on that plan. You have to bring around other people and work on your skill sets and work on your tool set and work on your mindset, which is what we talk about almost all the time on this podcast. Get those things in alignment so that you can execute on your plan, and then you can unleash your awesome on the world. See you.
Thanks for listening to Unleash the Awesome. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please share us on your favorite social media platforms using #UnleashAwesome.